From RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., the Cosmos meet the Washington Diplomats. Brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers. When you say Budweiser, you've said it all. And by the Volkswagen and Porsche Audi dealer organization in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And by your nearby independent Gulf dealer who carries quality Cruisemaster tires, batteries, and accessories. See him for all your automotive needs. And by your local neighborhood McDonald's.
Welcome to Good Seats Still Available, a curious little podcast devoted to exploring what used to be in professional sports. Here's your host, Tim Hanlon.
All right, let's do this, everybody. How are you? What's new and what's going on? My name is Tim Hanlon, and this is Good Seats Still Available, our curious little podcast that is devoted to what used to be in professional sports. Thank you tremendously for finding us and downloading us, putting us in your earbuds, doing whatever you do to ingest this crazy little genre that we like to sort of focus on, that being teams and leagues no longer with us, defunct, previously domiciled, whatever. And as most of you longtime listeners know, perhaps the seminal reason for why I've been doing this for almost 3 years now kind of got born from my childhood memories of a tremendously successful and perhaps I didn't even know it sort of really at the time, dynamic soccer franchise known as the New York Cosmos. Back in the late 70s and early 1980s, they played at Giant Stadium in beautiful downtown, not really a downtown, in the swampy marshes there, the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey, right next door to what is now the relatively new MetLife Stadium, built now in the shadows of the old Giant Stadium. But for a number of years, some of the largest crowds were not for New York Football Giants games, or even New York Jets games for that matter, but that of the New York Cosmos. And we love to sort of offer sort of these little bonus episodes in our deeper and perhaps no stone unturned exploration into that of the Cosmos and the legacy of that team. And this week is a very special endeavor towards that. And we get into a fun-filled session, both musically and memorably around sports and the Cosmos in particular, with our special guest this week, Steve Ferrone, the longtime drummer for just a monstrosity of phenomenal acts over the years. The Average White Band, of course, during the New York Cosmos existence, and we're going to get into that, and the Cosmos theme that you heard at the beginning, at the outset. That's Jim Carvelis that you heard doing a promo, an intro for an early season. I think it was April 8th, 1979, away game against the Washington Diplomats. And the Cosmos theme produced, created, performed by Steve Ferrone and his bandmates at the time, the Average White Band, who were quite the thing in the mid to late 1970s on the Atlantic Records label. And that's part of the story that we're going to get into with Steve. His memories, the composition of that theme song. I mean, talk about a legacy in music. I mean, Steve Ferrone not only was in the Average White Band, but went on to become the drummer for, I don't know, it was maybe 15, almost 20 years with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers as the years rolled on, and was just an amazing studio musician, session guy for a literal who's who of songs and albums from some of pop music's greatest names, Hall of Famers and all, Chaka Khan and Duran Duran, Scritti Politti, the Bee Gees, Anita Baker, George Benson, Whitney Houston, Brian Ferry, Pat Metheny, Steve Winwood. I mean, it goes on. Jeffrey Osborne and Paul Simon. It just goes on and on and on. And there's probably nobody in the professional music scene that Steve Ferrone has not played with or is not playing with now, as he continues to roll on in a many decades long career. And a lot of it sort of got its fuse lit when he was with the Average White Band in the mid to late 1970s. And that is when he and his bandmates Hamish Stuart, And, this is, I guess, sort of the classic version of the band, Onnie, McIntyre, and Alan Gorrie, part of that mixture. When the average white band, arguably, if you will, the house band for this team called the New York Cosmos, and the theme song for that team. And we're going to get into that with Steve, or we talk about sort of how all these things, these cosmic things, if you will, came together in Atlantic Records and Warner Communications, which owned the team and the label that the average white band was on, and the number one single and album that they had, and all that kind of stuff. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. Ahmet Ertegun and Neşeli Ertegun and Steve Ross and all the great sort of things that sort of came together that sort of made that sort of happen. I think you'll find it fascinating and intriguing, as I did with our guest this week, Steve Ferrone, or is it Ferrone? We'll talk about that in a second, too, in our chat coming up in just a couple of moments. It's as fun. It's a great excuse to talk music, and Steve is a wonderful cat, and we look forward to sharing that chat with you in just a few moments. Let's get a couple of commercial things out of the way first, however, and perhaps if you'd like to celebrate the New York Cosmos soccer team this week, by all means, why not try out two of our great sponsors and perhaps getting a few items or garb, wear, whatever it is, by all means, check them out at sportshistorycollectibles.com. That's one of them. Our friend Dean Mitchell in San Diego. And if you want to find some great memorabilia of the Cosmos and the old North American Soccer League in which they played, check them out, sportshistorycollectibles.com, and use the promo code GOODSEATS, and you're going to get 15% off all of your purchases there. You're going to find a lot of fun, great NASL soccer stuff, and a lot of great Cosmos stuff, too. There's programs and pennants and media guides and buttons and stickers and all kinds of things. It's a I send a kinder, gentler, and more well lit form of trade or eBay, if you will, and it's all devoted to great sports memories of teams and leagues of the past across a whole wide array of sports, not just soccer. But yeah, you will find a great bunch of soccer stuff, NASL stuff, American Soccer League stuff, certainly Cosmos stuff at sportshistorycollectibles.com. Make sure you use the promo code GOODSEATS and you will get 15% all of your purchases when you do so. And if you're a big fan of the Cosmos and the North American Soccer League, well, there's no better place, frankly, to get shirts that commemorate all those great teams. And boy, oh boy, there were dozens of them, weren't there? At our friends at streakersports.com. They call themselves the purveyor of sports culture. And streakersports.com, just go into the defunct leagues section. They've got a whole bunch of other things, too. And you'll find a whole bunch of other defunct leagues besides the old NASL. But check out the NASL section, and you're going to find, you'll see all the great teams, I think just about all of them, that sort of pranced across your television set, or the green or sometimes patchy brown fields of the old North American Soccer League. And there are just dozens and dozens of shirts commemorating those great teams from the old North American Soccer League. Again, streakersports.com. Of course, we have a promo code for you there, too, and that is Good Seats. Yep, Good Seats. That's the promo code at streakersports.com, and you're going to get 10% off all of your purchases there. And again, that's streakersports.com, promo code Good Seats. We thank them and of course, our friend Dean at sportshistorycollectibles.com, and all of our great sponsors. And that's perhaps the best way to show your love and support for our show, by making a purchase there. Of course, we get a little bit of love when you do so early and often, and we appreciate your doing so. And of course, we appreciate your continuing to listen to our fun chat with the great, the legendary musician and drummer extraordinaire, Steve Ferrone. And here's our chat we had just before the holidays, and please enjoy. So first of all, thank you for taking some time. So let me ask you this question, Steve, because maybe we could start just with the name, right? Because I heard you on the Don Cromwell podcast a couple of weeks back. Is it Steve Ferrone or Steve Ferrone?
Yes. It's both.
Well, how do you get? But most people, what do you want to be called, and why is there even confusion in the first place?
Well, it's a long story. It really is a long story. It's like when I was born, I was actually Ferrone that they put on the birth certificate, and the only reason that they used that name at all was because when I came out, I didn't look like I was black. I looked like I was Italian. So they decided that this woman had been to see the midwife had been to see a movie, and they had this guy who they could never remember his name, and his name was Ferrone. So she said, "Why don't we call him Tony Ferrone?" So they named me Tony Ferrone. But when I took colour, my parents felt stupid with a black kid with an Italian name. So, well, my mother did. So they changed the I to an E and pronounced it Ferrone. But all my friends used to call me Ferrone anyways. So, you know, it was. I answer to both. When people read it, they say Ferrone. If they ask me my name and I say my name's Ferrone, they don't understand it. They say what? So if I say Ferrone, they get it right away. So I answer to both, actually.
Yeah, but you don't answer to Tony.
No, that's my middle name.
That's perfect. Oh, that makes perfect sense, I think. I think even the most diehard music fan probably doesn't even know or understand all of that story. But it sounds like it.
Well, you know, it's very easy to understand. I was born in 1950. My mother was white and my father was black, and I was illegitimate. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to figure out is that it wasn't that easy. In 1950, it wasn't that easy. You know, right nowadays it doesn't really mean too much, but back then it was a scandal if you got pregnant and you weren't married. You know, my mother got pregnant by a black man and she wasn't married, so that caused a bit of a scuffle to try and stop the tongues from wagging in the town.
Well, it doesn't seem to have scarred you too much as you went on your career. Arguably, it maybe set the tone maybe for what became a very creative and musical career. So, as you know, this little show is focused on teams and leagues and sports that have come and gone, right? And the Cosmos was certainly something that's why I reached out to you originally. And before we get to that part of the story, though, and that's really where I want to focus, because Lord knows we could spend hours, which I know you wouldn't want to do, about your illustrious career in music, because it's ridiculously long and amazing just to even get into. But for this part of the story, right, a lot of you in the Cosmos, right, was centered around this thing called the Average White Band. Maybe a little bit of background as to how you got to that band in the mid-'70s.
Well, I was friends with the original drummer, with Robbie McIntyre. We've been friends since I was about 17 years old. And we met in Italy. And then I followed him into a couple of different bands. And he started playing with this band, Average White Band. And I've been to see them play, and they were really good. I really enjoyed them. And then, you know, we all sort of came up listening to the same sort of music, soul music, American soul music. We were all very, very much into that. Anyways, we were just friends. Robbie passed away of a drug overdose, and I was playing with the band called Bloodstone. I was doing a movie with this band called Bloodstone, and
sure,
and
Bloodstone, a very well-known R&B group, right?
That's right. That's why. Yeah, they did a movie, and I was working on their movie with them. And I said to the guys, I said, look, you know, I'm sure Robbie wanted you guys want to keep going, because you're just on the verge of having some success. If there's anything I can do to help, you know, and I would go and play some gigs with them, and if I couldn't do the gigs, Sticks Hooper from the Crusaders would go and do them. So both Sticks and I were trying to help them out to keep going. And then finally one day I was playing a gig with them down at Long Beach Arena, the old Long Beach Arena, and after the show, this little guy came walking up to me and said, "You got to be in the band." And I said, "Well, I'd love to be, but you know, I'm on the contract to Bloodstone." And he said, "You're out of that contract and you're in Average White Band." And I thought, "Who the hell is this guy?" You know, I said to the manager, "Who the hell is he?" And he said, "Oh, that's Ahmet Erdogan." And Ahmet Erdogan was the chairman of Atlantic Records, and he knew what he was talking about, because I was out of that contract and I was in Average White Band.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, Ahmet Erdogan's obviously a very big part of this Cosmos story in a second, but you put it in context, right? you're coming in, you're invited to, or volunteered to be part of this band. You're being sort of charitable, because this is when AWB was literally on the cusp of, I mean, they basically had a #1 smash hit in the United States with Pick Up the Pieces. I mean, you literally and figuratively were helping pick up the pieces for this band.
Absolutely. Yes, six Super and myself. We both contributed. That was one of the reasons that we thought that they should keep going. You know, it was, they were really on the edge of just having this breaking with this record, and it didn't seem like they should. You know, it seemed kind of disrespectful to Robbie to even think about stopping at that point. You know, even though everybody was terribly affected by his demise like that. It was a sudden death. You know.
Well, but before we get off of this sort of point of it, I mean, how, I guess, as a drummer, as now a key and integral part of the band, how do you fit in so quickly? Where you're supporting an album and a hit single and maybe even another hit single, you know, that arguably you really, you know, you weren't part of in the studio. So how does the band react to you, and how do you react to them, and what's the vibe as you're on the road to support this album that you were really not part of creating?
Well, you know, I mean, let me put it this way: whilst all this was going on, the band was having auditions to find a drummer, and I already had a job. I mean, I had a job with Bloodstone. I wasn't really looking to join any band, although I really thoroughly enjoyed playing with the band. And like I said, we all came up listening to the same music. We had a really big background in R&B, listening to Motown, going out and dancing in the clubs when we were younger, listening to Marvin Gaye, you know, all the Motown acts. We were like huge fans of that soul music, Otis Redding, and then, you know, then we got to all the Stax stuff and Atlantic. We were very much into the same kind of music, you know, and so that for me to sit in and play with the band really wasn't difficult at all. Robbie and I were huge fans of each other's drumming. We were good friends, you know. I put him into a couple of bands. It wasn't that I sat down and had to think about, you know, being Robbie McIntyre to join a band. I was always myself. Our styles were very different but very compatible because we liked the same sort of music. We had the same focus at the end.
So it was a relatively smooth transition, albeit for obviously the emotional toll and the tragic circumstances, for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, we were all really affected by Robbie passing. I mean, we'd known it. We were friends. We knew each other. We all, you know, I mean, I was mainly close with Hamish and with Robbie. Robbie, I'd known years before Average White Band. Alex Lidgetwood, who ended up singing with Santana, he and Robbie used to play in a band called The Senate in Italy, and we used to stay in the same hotel together, me and the guitarist from my band, and then there was Robbie and Alex, and all we used to do was listen to music and drink cheap wine. That was about it, you know, and go and see people play, go to clubs, and you know, we were very, very, very close. So in most of the bands that I've been in, you know, even down to the Heartbreakers, I noticed that there was once I got to know, you know, Tom and Mike and talked to them about, we were the same age. We were all born in 1950, and when we talked about the music that we were listening to back when we were teenagers, we used to listen to a lot of the same music, you know. So that kind of made it an easy transition for me to get into the Heartbreakers.
All right. Well, talk to me about Ahmet Ertegun then, because you referenced him earlier. Obviously, give our audience a sense of who this guy was, right? Because not only did he have an ear, but he was transcendent, I think, in terms of music. at Atlantic Records, and then he heard something with you for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, he and his brother Neswi, they started off as being like jazz fans. I mean, they were sons of diplomats, Turkish diplomats, and they were huge jazz fans. They'd go around and they'd listen to these people making this music, making jazz, and then they decided, well, let's record this stuff. Let's you know, they were you know, wealthy guys from a wealthy background, and they had some privilege, and they wanted to start recording this music, and they took an interest in the music. They were very much from the music. They didn't come into the business to make money. That was just by the side of it. They came into it really to have fun. You know, they had fun and made an enormous amount of money at the same time. It was the perfect life for them. You know, and they surrounded themselves with like-minded people, such as Jerry Wexler, Tom Dowd, Arif Mardin, some of the guys that have produced some of the most classic music ever. I was at a video shoot the other day, and it was sort of a background, a backup movie to not the Snake Pit. What was the movie that they made about the Los Angeles musicians, the Wrecking Crew?
Yeah, sure.
Remember? Yeah. So it was like they're doing a follow up to the Wrecking Crew, and I said to the guy, "Well, when are you going to do a movie about the East Coast and Memphis guys?" I mean, it was like the amount of music that came out of New York and the music and musicians. It was absolutely phenomenal, you know. So, you know, we're talking about a different sort of. It's a different world out there now with the musically. You know, it seems it's all about, like, the bean counters got hold of our business, and they kind of forgot where it came from. You know, it was meant to be like fun and music.
Explain to me then what the vibe and the scene at Atlantic Records in 1974, 75, 76, the middle 70s, with the Erdogan brothers. You're mentioning Arif Mardin. It just had to be I want to say proverbially once in a lifetime, but kind of a unique situation. What that vibe was like, not only the band but also just Atlantic Records generally.
It was fantastic. It was, you know, it was creative. Everybody had the space, the time to create, to see what they could come up with, to even like go in different directions than what we gone in before. It was an amazing experience to be there. You know, there were so many good friends, and they called it the Atlantic family. And you know, still to today online, there's a group of people that were employed, the former employees. And you're talking about A&R, presidents, vice presidents, that are all still connected online, that still talk to each other, show up at each other's funerals, musicians. It was very much a family. You know, everybody really loved their job. And I don't know if that's around. You know, I don't know if that's around anymore. You know, used to be able to. I remember once going and doing a session in Capitol Records, and in Capitol Studios in Los Angeles, and I was downstairs, and an A&R guy upstairs in Capitol, who worked for Capitol Records, heard that I was downstairs and came down and introduced himself and said, "Please come up and meet some people in the office." And I went up to their office and walked around there, and said, they introduced me to everybody and loaded me up with, "Man, you should listen to this album, that album." They gave me like a whole bunch of albums, and it was really nice to meet them. And I had nothing to do with that label, but everybody was sort of in the music business together. Everybody loved music, and whether you were on their label or not on their label, it was just a question of like, you know, you sort of like earned your stripes, and they wanted to meet you and wanted to know you and wanted to know about you, and therefore that's when, you know, great collaborations started to happen, when people would say, "Well, can you play on this person's album?" And some great music was made.
Yeah, how much of that was Atlantic Records specifically, or how much of that was just being in the music industry in its some heyday
well, I believe,
generally.
look, I believe that the music industry was pretty much like that. I mean, I got a call once from Herb Alpert, and he asked if I could come out to Los Angeles, and I said, "What, to work on something?" He said, "No, just come out. I'd like to meet you for a second." So he flew me out from Los Angeles, and I went and met him, and we went and had lunch, and that was it. He just wanted to meet me for some reason. I guess that we heard some music. We talked about music I played on, talked about his music, and that was about it. I don't see that happening now in record companies. I don't see that interaction between musicians and record companies.
Well, let's also put it in perspective for our audience, right? I mean, you're not just any sort of run-of-the-mill drummer, right? You're playing in one of the hottest bands in the mid-'70s with the Average White Band. I mean, you're playing on amazing debut albums like Chaka Khan's album in '78. I mean, you have a distinct style, and you're making more than a name for yourself on a number of different fronts, whether it's Atlantic Records or otherwise, right? So, but it does speak to, I think, that '70s sort of mid-'70s kind of creativity that, to your point earlier, is just completely sucked out of the industry these days. But Atlantic Records seems like it was somewhat unique in the extremes by which it supported that creativity. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I'd say Atlantic Records was a vanguard in that area because of the stable that they signed. I mean, when you think of it, the Rolling Stones, Foreigner, Average White Band, Bee Gees. I mean, what they called WEA, Warner Electra Atlantic, was a powerhouse. It had a lot of Chic. It had all these different, from R&B, Aretha Franklin, to Led Zeppelin. I mean, come on, one label. Think about it. One label, Aretha Franklin and Led Zeppelin. I mean, who has that now? Who does that now? They sort of they put themselves in these little pockets. We do indie rock, or we do rap, or we do nobody does that kind of signings now. That spreads. That just loves great music, not good music. Now, you're not even talking good music. You're talking about great music, right? If you say Aretha Franklin and Led Zeppelin, that's a start. And then you got throw the Rolling Stones in there, some Average White Band, the OJs, Foreigner, the Spinners. It's all, and still have a label that produces music from John Coltrane, Miles Davis, McCoy Tyner, Max Roach, Art Blakey, all the great jazz artists, one label. I mean, not good, incredible.
And still stands the test of time, for sure. Did you know at the time how special that was, honestly?
No. If I'd have known, I would have paid more attention to it. Look, it's like I went to see, when I was a little kid, when I first started playing, I started playing with kids that were 18 years old, and I was 13. And these kids were like into the blues, and they took me to see these blues tours with Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee and Lightning Hopkins and Bo Diddley and John Lee Hooker, all the great blues artists on one tour. And I go and see that, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't realize what it was I was watching until now. I would think, man, I should have paid more attention to that when I could see those guys like standing in front of me playing. So these things you don't really realize, it's that when you're in that presence. I went and saw Hendrix when I was a kid playing Brighton. It's like I could have paid more attention to that too. I enjoyed it. I had a great time doing it, but I should have paid more attention.
Yeah, an amazing time that you were there at Atlantic and with the Erdigans. But let's also put this in context. Atlantic Records, or Warner Electric Asylum, right, is also part of this relatively newly formed conglomerate called Warner Communications, owned by a very interesting guy by the name of Steve Ross, and all kinds of stuff going on. What's your exposure to the rest of the company, and and Steve Ross in particular, either through the Hurricanes or just generally?
Well, I mean, my dealings were mainly with I knew who Steve Ross was, and we'd sort of see him around, he'd say hello, like, hi guys, how you doing? And that was it. And then, when the Cosmos thing started, being as we're from England and we were football starved back then, that we started to go on Sundays. We could go out and see these games, and they had some great players out there, Pelé and Beckenbauer, to name but two, that were out there playing great football, and we could go and see this and really enjoy ourselves. So I'd see Steve Ross. He had it's funny. He used to be up in the middle tier, just raised. We always used to be down on the ground, and he was up on this middle tier, and he had a special belt made, what he would put round his waist and put over the railing, and probably in case he got too excited and fell over the railing, that he wouldn't fall all the way down into the crowd. It was the funniest thing. He used to have this special belt on up there, but watching the game,
yeah,
it's hilarious.
It's true. I've read a lot about Steve Ross. I've met his son a couple of times, and Mark, and indeed, I mean, he was beyond passionate about that Cosmos soccer team. I think it's partially because, in many respects, like a lot of people, he wanted to get an NFL franchise, American football, was not able to do so, and he saw soccer as sort of his sort of next best opportunity to be a pro sports baron.
And it was packed. That stadium was packed every Sunday. It was just packed, jam-packed, sold out. I was really having problems trying to figure out why there wasn't more of a. I don't know anything about the business side of it, but it was hard to believe that, hey, this is taking a really, really strong grip on the here in New York. Anyways, I think everybody that was like all the South Americans, Hispanics, English, Scottish, Germans, Italians. All the mishmash that you got there in New York, everybody wanted to go and see the Cosmos play, and it was just fantastic. It was a fantastic moment, especially when we got out to do the song. Let's
get to that in a second. But just to remind our audience, or even to introduce the concept to our audience, that I think people forget in the mid to late 70s, New York was an interesting place to be on a number of different levels. But these Cosmos games were a cultural phenomenon, right? I mean, not only were star musicians like you guys in the stands, but I mean, it was the cause celeb for everybody, from Andy Warhol to Paul Newman, just the Rolling Stones and the dressing. I mean, it was an incredible assortment of stars, and it was almost like Studio 54 West for a period of time while playing soccer as well. It was amazing.
Absolutely, and it was great. I mean, and they'd have, like, I remember the Italian team came over, or the French team came over and played the Cosmos, and so that was like such a cosmopolitan city like New York, anyways. It sort of brought everybody would come out and see their players, and having such an international team like the Cosmos with English players, South American, Brazilian, Argentinian, Italian players, Giorgio Canaglia. It was just wonderful. Everybody went to see that. It was just like this World Cup team with all the great players from all these great players from around the world, and everybody went to see these people play together. It was wonderful, uniting feedback.
Yeah, and talk about not necessarily appreciating it at the moment. I mean, that as a kid growing up watching those games, right? Only in hindsight do you recognize just how cosmic, if you will, that array of talent was at that time, and it was truly a special blend of situation for that team to be on there. Absolutely,
and it was just so much fun, and it was just great. We really enjoyed it, and it was kind of weird for us to see football because they had cheerleaders and everything. It's not like football games. It's not like American games where the team the audience needs to be told to make noise. Football. Well, I call it football. What you would call soccer. in America. We don't really need much egging on to make noise at a soccer game, football. Well, I can't call it soccer. It's just really too hard for me to call it soccer. I always say, when Americans learn to call football, then they might stand a chance of winning the World Cup.
I would agree with that logic. I highly subscribe to that. All right, what's this? The Arizona Office of Tourism Spring Training. Oh my God. Hey, this spring, follow your favorite baseball teams to Arizona for Cactus League Spring Training. Amazing weather and landscapes, exciting outdoor adventure, incredible food. Arizona. It's the perfect home base for baseball fans. Follow your favorite baseball teams to Arizona for Cactus League Spring Training. 10 stadiums, 15 Major League Baseball teams, and 75-degree temperatures. Awesome. And all 10 stadiums are in the greater Phoenix area, all within 50 miles of the city. Meet players, get autographs before the games, and just enjoy an old-fashioned ballpark experience in beautiful preseason weather down in Arizona. Check out amazing restaurants and bars nearby, including tons of craft breweries like Four Peaks, Angel's Trumpet Ale House, and Goldwater Brewing Company. Enjoy live music from local and national artists, and explore museums featuring everything from native heritage to modern art to musical instruments from around the world and more. Arizona is known for its incredible landscapes too, as well as thrilling outdoor adventures. So hit the road and explore Arizona's urban centers or ghost towns or artsy communities or quirky outposts. You can hike, you can bike, you can take Jeep tours, hot air balloon rides, skydiving, jet skiing, or just taking in a good old-fashioned sunset. No matter what you love to do, Arizona has you covered. Check out must-see destinations from your bucket list like the Grand Canyon, Monument Valley, Horseshoe Bend, and even the great Old West city of Tucson. Bringing the kids along for spring training? Hey, Arizona's a fantastic destination for families too. Family-friendly resorts and hotels offer plenty of fun for kids of all ages, from water parks to horseback rides to games and activities. Arizona also has tons of stuff for kids to do and see, like wildlife parks and science museums, aquariums, and even dude ranches. So what are you waiting for? Plan now for your spring training getaway at visitarizona.com/spring training. That's visitarizona.com/spring training. Hey, and don't forget, send us a postcard. All right, what's this? ExpressVPN? Okay, well, so we all know how a VPN protects your privacy and security online, right? Well, what I didn't know until recently, and truly it's taken my TV watching game to the next level, is that you can use a VPN to unlock movies and shows that are only available in other countries. For example, over the weekend, I used ExpressVPN to binge watch Doctor Who on UK Netflix. It was so simple. I just fired up the ExpressVPN app, changed my location to the UK, refreshed Netflix, and that was it. I got to watch all those shows as if I were watching in the UK. You see, ExpressVPN hides your IP address and lets you control where you want sites to think you're located. You can choose from almost 100 different countries, so just think of all the Netflix libraries you could go through. Hey, do you love anime? Well, you could use ExpressVPN to access Japanese Netflix and be spirited away. Hey, but it's not just Netflix. ExpressVPN works for just about any streaming service: Hulu, BBC's iPlayer, YouTube, you name it. There are hundreds of VPNs out there, but the reason that I use ExpressVPN to watch shows is that it's ridiculously fast. There's never any buffering or lag, and you can stream in HD with little to no problem. ExpressVPN is also compatible with all of your devices, your phones, your media consoles, your smart TVs, and more. So you can watch what you want on the go or on the big screen wherever you are. So visit my special link right now at expressvpn.com/goodseats, and you can get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. Support the show and watch what you want from where you want, and protect yourself all at the same time. Again, at expressvpn.com/goodseats. One more time, expressvpn.com/goodseats. Let's talk about how this Cosmos theme comes into being. How do you even get in the situation? Were you assigned this by one of the Ertigans, or did you volunteer for this? Did you start clapping during the game? What?
Well, I guess Ahmed talked to Reece Martin, who was our producer, and said, "Hey, listen, you guys want to come up with a song?" Because they knew that we were like, the Scottish and English are just like crazy about football. We love football, and they said, "Well, you want to write a song for the team." So I had an idea for this. Da 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 da. That was kind of it, and we sort of came up with this beat for it, and Alan came up with the bass line and sort of put it all together, and then incorporated it, which was like the big thing. Everybody did that. England, when England won the World Cup, and back in not that long before, but England. So we thought we'd put that into put Cosmos in it, put that in there, and so we recorded this song, and bang, out it popped. Now then, it came to like putting it to the team. Did the team like it? And it was kind of funny because the team wanted to have as the theme song for them "We Are the Champions" by Queen. but the cheerleader said, "No, we like the other song. We can dance to that better." So the cheerleaders kind of won us the victory, I believe. So that's what I heard, anyways.
So you're saying that it really in the studio kind of came together pretty quickly, then, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I just had I just sort of so I got this idea for like a theme for it, and then we just sort of expanded on that theme. I had the beat and the that was the start of it. That was the beginning of it.
And it got played not only after every goal in the stadium, but also became a hallmark of all the advertising and all the Cosmos broadcasts and all that kind of stuff. Where did the name Cosmic Highlanders come from? Was that something legally that you had to do versus saying AWB, or was that just a kind of a kitschy joke?
They bought it. They bought the whole thing. They bought it. They bought the whole thing, and they I guess they wanted that to be theirs, and so they we can't say that the average white man owned it. We signed away any ownership to it at all whatsoever. It was our pleasure to give some music to the Cosmos, and that was we were honored to be able to do that.
So give me a sense then of were you? It sounds like you're obviously soccer fans, but did you sort of get into this whole Cosmos theme, because it did seem like the scene? It did seem like it was. If you were a member of the Warner Communications company, you kind of had to buy into the Cosmos thing, whether you liked it or not. But I suspect that you liked it pretty much.
Oh no, we loved it. It was. I mean, we were like football starved. I mean, when we went back to England, we were always going to games. We used to go to Scotland, England games all the time, and sort of being the only English member of Average White Man, I had to go in disguise and wear a tam. It was kind of interesting, but we were kind of starved of that being here. I mean, we used to, back then we used to run around and play. There was a couple of clubs up in Connecticut where Molly and Alan lived. and we had a bit of a football team that we used to go up there and play a bit. Like, Rod Stewart was out here in Los Angeles, and he used to have him and his English buddies used to have a football team that used to play out here. I mean, nothing that we'd ever get to play against each other for. But, I mean, when we were out here in Los Angeles working with Humberto Gatica, the engineer, he's from Brazil, and he had a lot of Brazilian friends, so we go and play football with him and his Brazilian friends. So we used to play back then. In those days, we could run around quite a bit and play, and it was we used to enjoy having a kick around. But it was never on the TV. I mean, I remember even when they had the World Cup here in the United States, there was the semi-final was on, and I was in a cab going to New York Airport, getting ready to fly over to Europe, and me and this Puerto Rican cab driver were trying to find a football game on the radio, and what they were playing was a replay on the sports channel. On the sports channel, they were playing a replay of the Stanley Cup game that year, and so it was really sort of disrespectful. It didn't get very much respect from the sports media here, So maybe that was why it didn't really kick off straight away from that. I mean, thank God for the American ladies team, who just done wonders in turning the interest around. Probably more so, I would say, more so than the male team. The USA ladies soccer team has just done wondrous jobs. They did a great job of playing football, and they're deservedly world champions. So.
When Pelé was part of the team in 75, 76, 77, and even he was still related to the team after he stopped playing, he famously, as part of his deal with Warner and the Cosmos, had a music clause in there where he actually could do some music, and I think he collaborated with Sergio Mendes on some stuff. Were you ever part of the mix, or were you ever asked to be part of the mix of maybe helping Pelé get a couple of things out there in the recorded music?
No, sadly, no. I would love to have done that. That would have been fantastic. To hang around Pelé quite a bit. That would have been wonderful. Yeah, no, that never happened. Would that it had.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how great a musician he was. I mean, I've heard some of the music. I mean, it's not bad, the album, but I mean, people I don't think ascribe him as being sort of the consummate musician per se. But knowing in all the stuff that was swirling around Warner and Atlantic Records at the time, I was wondering if they were just part of the stable of being maybe possibly part of the mix.
Well, no. I mean, we never really had too much to do with any of the players, So other than just be fans and go and watch the game, that was it. We were just really we were just happy to do that.
Anything that you remember that stands out about the Erteguns or Steve Ross or any of the other crazy Cosmos egos that were sort of out there and stuff that or was it just sort of a big maelstrom of stars and soccer and your music blaring on the?
There were moments in games that you'll never forget. I mean, I mean, when I talked about the French team playing the Cosmos, they really sort of handed the Cosmos their asses. But Pelé wasn't playing, and none of the Canalia wasn't playing. There was a lot of the main players weren't playing. It was mainly like a USA team that they put together for that. There was some really great moments of being out there of football. Momentous moments of certain goals that sort of stick in my head that people scored. Or Canale was very much a guy that would sort of hang around the almost offside area, just sort of hang around there. We called him a bit of a goal hanger, but when he got on the end of a ball, he was just amazing at putting it in the back of a net. He was just like a really great player, And so it was that, and it was just wonderful to be a part of the whole thing. Really, I mean, to be a part of the Atlantic family, a part of the cosmos. They just had a way of making you feel part of the company, and you know, if it's worth anything at all, I still do feel very much a part of that company. I still have very, very fond memories of the music that we made with Arif Mardin and sessions and stuff that I did with Ahmed Erdogan, and he was just like a wonderful man, and just him and his wife Mika, just wonderful people. Neswi, his brother, Tunç Erim, who was a basketball player, a Turkish basketball player that came over and worked in A&R in Atlantic Records. Just a really great man, and his wife Susan, and you know, it was a wonderful moment. You had to have been there. Everybody should have a moment like that in their life.
Well, your career obviously was on fire in those late 70s and early 80s, and you were more than on your way beyond even just the constraints, if you will, of the average white band. But while that was going on, I mean, we could literally spend a day going through literally all the great artists and bands that you played with, and then some afterwards. But while that your red hot music career is ongoing, and while we have you talk still about soccer for a couple more minutes, what do you think?
I'm still here.
No, what do you think? What do you think was the demise of the Cosmos? I mean, you saw it in the heyday, but you probably also were around enough to sort of see it decline. Well, what was your perception of why maybe it didn't last longer?
You know, I had no. For me, it just came to a screeching halt. It was kind of, you know, it was like we went out on the road and we started working and doing something. An average white band kind of stopped working together, and I was more involved in doing like session work and you know, working with other people, Duran Duran, Eric Clapton, and stuff like that, traveling out of the country. And then one day I turned around and I'm like, so what happened to the Cosmos? Where did they go? You know, it was one of those things. I mean, I guess it's kind of like, I think it's maybe, you can compare it to today's music industry. It's like all of a sudden you look around and you go, well, where the hell did that go? Where did those people go? Where did that go? Where did that way of making music go? Instead of it being so much of a business, it's like, you know, I guess the difference between then and now is that if you went and saw somebody and I went to Arif Mardin or Ahmed Erdogan and said, man, you know, I just saw this person playing in this club. It's just incredible. And said, oh, really? What were they doing? And they'd start talking to you about the music. The last thing that they would ask you was, how old are they? Or what did they look like? You know, it was all about the music, and it's kind of like, well, where did that go? That's kind of gone now, you know? And now it was the same thing that happened with the Cosmos. Was that 1 minute it was there, like burning real bright, and then the next minute it was gone, and I couldn't figure out why, because every Sunday was sold out. So you tell me. What do you think happened?
Yeah, well, we've gone through a bunch of that with some of our previous episodes and stuff, and it's complicated. There are a bunch of reasons. I mean, one of which was the Cosmos, right, were the top spending team by a large margin, right, and there were a lot of teams that struggled to keep up with that kind of paycheck kind of thing, and the top talent, and you know, television wasn't really solidifying, and it was popular in New York and a few other markets, but you know, there were 20 some odd other teams out there, not all of which were nearly as financially secure. And, you know, Warner Communications had its own issues in the early 80s with Atari in particular that kind of sabotaged the rest of the company. And frankly, a lot of and I suspect this is sort of as you were segueing out of AWB into other things, you probably also saw that in Atlantic Records and in Warner's, that they were, you know, kind of having to, you know, grit and bear some down economic times, both in the company and in the country.
Right. I mean, I guess that's the only thing that I can think that happened, that financially there was something fell out out of the bottom of it, and they just couldn't keep it going. But yes, I mean, I did understand that there wasn't much competition for the Cosmos, but there were some teams that had some other players. I think was it like Chicago or somewhere, or Detroit? Didn't they get Georgie Best or something to come and play with them?
Oh, yeah, sure. George Best played for 3 teams in the NASL. In Los Angeles, he played in Fort Lauderdale and in San Jose. Yeah, and he was, matter of fact, one of our dream guests as well is Elton John. I mean, I don't know how much he remembers about 1974 and owning the Los Angeles Aztecs and bringing George Best over to the NASL to play. But it would be an interesting conversation for sure. And we'll always keep our hope out that we can finally get him for a couple minutes to talk about that.
Well, you can't keep us away from our football for too long, yeah.
All right. Well, so let me ask you one last question. It's actually a 2-pronged question. One is sort of, so you've been in the States for some time. Obviously, I'm assuming you're still a proper football fan. What do you think the future of the sport is here in the United States, given now that we're 30 teams in this thing called Major League Soccer? Do you think it's ever going to approach things like the English Premier League and other international, teams and that kind of stuff? Do you think it has a future in this country, or maybe it's still?
Well, I think, for me, I mean, when I look at English Premier League, it's better than any other league that's out there. It's just incredibly exciting to see that, and I think that that a lot of the American players, some of your better American players, actually go and play in that league, and come back with the experience of playing in there. I think what is one of the main things that I think that is missing and has been missing is a good coach for the American team. When they had Klinsmann, it actually started to look a bit like the game. It wasn't just Americans charging around playing American football kind of aggressively. There was more of a beauty to it, more of a flow to it, the way that they were playing. And I think America could put together a great team, a fantastic team of great players. You have the athletes, you have the training, you have the finances, you have everything to do that. But what I think that it needs is the experience. It can get there. I think it can get there to be this league, the leagues here, the players. But I think that they have to go and play there to be able to figure it out.
Well, you live in LA. Have you gone? Do you fancy yourself going to LAFC games or Galaxy games, or is it not sort of your cup of tea?
The only time that I've ever been there was I went there to see a boxing match.
Well, I think that answers it right there.
That's the only time I've ever been there. But they play down the street from me. There's the football fields up in Balboa Park. They've redid all the football fields there. They play there every Sunday. There's lots of teams play there. At the high school next to me, they have football matches there all the time. And now I get to watch Premier League on the TV. I tape all the things and see all the games. And my hometown team, the Seagulls, the Brighton and Hove Albion, I've been watching them play, and that's been fun to be able to see them play in the Premier League and stay there, by the skin of their teeth, but they're staying there. And so I think the interest in football here in America has changed a lot from back then. I think that they figured out that the game, they don't have to stop and start the game to have adverts to make money from it. That they can, like they do in Europe, they run the ads along the side of those panels around the field, and that money can still be made from it, and they can still add their advertising without interrupting the game or putting something over the game that you might miss something. So I think maybe it's a different world now.
Well, I don't know. I think we got to get you to an MLS game in LA so that you can, God forbid, maybe even come up with another theme for yet the next generation of sports teams here. I mean, you've done it.
I might drag myself down there. They got a new stadium down there now, so I might go down there and see when they start playing again.
Well, let me ask you one last question then. So musically, obviously, you've been just a force, right? A drummer extraordinaire, and then some. With just literally a litany, a who's who of Grammy winners and legacy talent and all that kind of stuff. And again, we'll do an intro that sort of at least gives some of that justice. But so you've wrapped up with the Heartbreakers, right? And you've got a new band out, or a relatively new band, with some of your old mates. No, right now.
Yeah, with Hamish. Well, actually, it was a band called 360. It was Hamish and I and Molly Duncan from Average White Band. But Molly passed away a couple of months ago, so there's only 260 now. We're both rapidly approaching 270. But we did go to England and do a tour and finish the tour that we were supposed to do with Molly, and we had a really nice memorial service in Montrose with his family, and I said to him, he said, "What do you think? We should keep going?" He said, "Yeah, let's do some more." So we've been writing some more songs, and we'll put something else out maybe the end of next year.
And that's great. I get the sense that you don't strike me as the retiring type, right? I sense that music is always going to be part of your life, and you've got lots more still left in you in some form or fashion, no?
Well, it's kind of hard to retire from playing. It's like I just play. I love playing. I love making music. I love it. There's nothing like it. I mean, I really love doing it. I mean, I play. I have a little jazz band. I got invited to play with two guys, Matt Politano and Matt Gorrie. They invited me to play jazz at this jazz gig out in Pasadena on Tuesdays, and I said, "Oh, fantastic! Nobody ever asked me to play jazz, and I love playing jazz. And I got a little jazz kit and everything." And they said, "Oh yeah, great. Well, this is fine." I said, "Well, so next Tuesday, yeah, and what time's the hit?" And they said 8:00 in the morning. I said, 8:00 in the morning. You're going to play jazz at 8:00 in the morning? And I said, "Yeah." That was 2 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's something that I really, when we do it, was that if I'm in town, I'm there on a Tuesday morning. We're not going to play for the next couple of weeks because they're out of town doing stuff with their families. I'm really pissed at them because it would be really nice if they feel like playing me on Christmas. but I just love doing that. I just love making music, and I'm going to try and finish an album that I started on my own. With 20 years ago, I started to record some songs here and there, and I got to finish that this year. I'm going to get that done. See if I can get it. Well, 2020 is my objective, to get it finished. So. All
right. Well, you keep us abreast as to when that's coming out so that we can promote it. And I want to leave you with one last favorite of mine. I mean, you've got just hundreds and hundreds of great tracks that you've been part of over the years. I just want to tell you that one that stands out in my mind that I absolutely love, and I only recently discovered that you were the drummer for, and that was from Chaka Khan's "What You Gonna Do For Me" album, and that's the title track. "What You Gonna Do For Me."
Yeah.
You bang the hell out of that song, and it is just it's the essence of you as soulful, and just you keep that song together and pump that song. Whatever Arif did in the studio, whatever Chaka did in the studio, with all due respect, I think you're the one that made that track drive, and I love it, and love it even more now that I know that you were part of it. So just a small taste of you.
We did it twice,
Okay.
We did it twice. Well, it was originally an Average White Band song, and Chaka come to see. This is one of those things. She come to visit and hang out with us in the studio, and she just sang the choruses along with Hamish when we recorded it with Average White Man. And she said, "Well, if you ever get around to wanting me to do that song, I'd love to do it." So Clyde Davis wouldn't put that song out as a single for Average White Band. He said that the song wasn't right for us. And we recorded it with Chaka. Hamish and I were recording that album with Chaka in Switzerland, and we recorded "What You Gonna Do For Me" with her, and she had a huge hit with it.
No, it's a fantastic song, and it holds up. It holds up and then some. It feels like it was recorded yesterday. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that was when we used to make music.
All right, I'm sorry.
Instead of making records, we made music.
Well, all right, one last quick question. I'm sorry. Is there any chance, any thought, any possibility, and I don't know what the situation is and stuff, that you would, quote unquote, reunite or play a couple more gigs with some of the other remaining members of Average White Band, or is that ship kind of sailed?
Well, I'm not really sure. My door is always open for that. I think Hamish's door is open for that. I think you'd have to talk to Alan and Onnie about that one more than anybody else. That'd be a good question for them. Do you have their number?
No, I don't have any reason to call them. I guess I could ask them about what their thoughts about the Cosmos theme was, but at some point, sure. I'm happy to reach out and see if they have any different memories of it, sure, and they could ask them that question too. Happy.
I'll send you their number.
Well, okay.
I'll send you Alan's number.
I think there are a lot of Average White Band fans that would argue that you guys were sort of part of that sort of classic time and lineup in the mid to late 70s, early 80s. That was, called the essential. I guess obviously lots of band members have come and gone in that band, but arguably you were part of that sort of that main sort of time that people sort of classically remember AWB for.
Yeah, it's kind of that was the creative area for Average White Band. I think it's kind of stopped when we broke up there for a second. So. But I mean, they still play great. I mean, I go and see them, sit in with them every once in a while. But they ain't nothing like the original thing. It was really a special thing to have to put that rhythm section and that band and those vocals together. It was really special.
Well, I just have one wish as we depart here, and I thank you tremendously for all of your time and for furtively talking to me in your car while the game goes on in L.A. Is somehow some of you guys could get back together at a gig, say in the New York area, and just for kicks, play the Cosmos theme. It would be, I think there'd be more than a few people that not only would remember it, but would clap with you along the way.
All right, well, let's see what we can do about that. I'll talk to Hamish about it.
All right, there it is. The door is open, and we look forward to figuring out maybe the opportunity to perhaps, in our own selfish way, maybe get Steve and the remaining members of today's touring Average White Band back together for at least one little session, maybe to sort of recreate that great Cosmos theme, known as by the way, they were under the nom de plume of the Cosmic Highlanders. I think we kind of mentioned that a little bit, but if you're looking for it on eBay or looking for it out there in the ether, you will not find the song, the Cosmos theme song, under the name of the Average White Band, or even AWB for that matter. You will find them under their pseudonym, known as the Cosmic Highlanders, and the record was issued as a single. I'm not sure if it was widely available beyond the hallways and the merchant stands of Giant Stadium back in the day. But we'll have a picture of the sleeve on our website at goodseatsstillavailable.com. You search up the episode number 146 with Steve Ferrone. Not only will you find this episode and, of course, all the other episodes, but you'll find a bunch of images and memories and of course, all kinds of links to great stuff all across the web on some of our great books and media that our various guests have done. But if you want to find a visual of what that 45 looked like back in the day of the Cosmos theme, you'll find it there on that episode number 146 on goodseatsstillavailable.com. You want to check out what Steve Ferrone is up to. And yeah, he's constantly on the road, constantly sitting in with all kinds of great musicians. He's got his own band out there, the 360 band, maybe renamed, we'll see. But you can check him out at steveferrone.com. Make sure you spell it right. That's Steve Ferrone, Ferrone.com. And that's where you can find all of what Steve is up to on the road, in the studio, and then some. And again, you want to find out what we're doing with this little show, both this week as well as ongoing. It's goodseatsstillavailable.com. Bookmark it. Go there early and often. You'll find all the old episodes as well as links to all the stuff that will keep you in touch with this little showgram here, and we appreciate your doing so. You want to track us on social media? Well, look for us on Instagram at Good Seats Still Available. You'll find us on Twitter at Good Seats Still. You'll find us on Facebook. There's a page devoted to us there. You want to send us some email? Go right ahead. We're at hello@goodseatsstillavailable.com. Any of the old members of AWB want to reach out and contact me for your own memories of the Cosmic Highlanders Cosmos theme production process? By all means, we'd love to have you, and then maybe we'll twist your arm and see if we can get you together with Steve and maybe produce and sing the song again. That would be fun and a great sort of closing of the historic circle for we Cosmos fans out there, and we appreciate that. Also, while you're on the website, if you want to sign up for our weekly email newsletter, you can do that too. There's a link to that there as well. And one last thing, of course, our friend Jerry Payne and Podfly Productions. They are the producers of all of our collective pieces each and every week, makes us sound somewhat humanly consumable, and we appreciate it every week, of course. And you want to find out more about Podfly and their production efforts and their services, of course, you can do so by going to podfly.net. All right, we leave you this week with the full, long version of the Cosmos theme, inclusive of the infamous, or famous, depending on your perspective, Cosmos clap. Yeah, you'll hear it a couple of times in there. And please enjoy it. It's Steve Ferrone and his friends in the old AWB, the Cosmic Highlanders, and we thank you for listening this week. And until next week, ta-ta and be well.